I'm interviewing Tammie Osler, who's with Charter Schools, one of our clients. So Tammie, could you take a minute and just explain a little bit about your role, what it was originally, and what it is today, and why you engaged with us at Action Coach, why you reached out to us in the first place?
Sure. So I'm the general counsel at Charter School Specialist. I have been there for a little over 11 years. And when I first started there, the organization was very flat. So it was just the president, and he was managing about 20 people. And so we originally reached out to you a few years ago in order to kind of build the hierarchy into the organization and kind of get our departments kind of working together, but also I don't want to say separated, but they needed to be separated a little bit with different managers so that we could better oversee them just strategically, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if I recall, you were like actively looking for somebody to provide executive coaching and leadership development for you specifically and in the company. Why did you end up choosing us versus some of the other firms you've been looking at for, I think you've been looking for a couple of years, if I remember right?
Yeah, that's a great question. We had interviewed probably 3 to 5 different organizations looking, and at that point, it was just the president and I who were looking to really find somebody. We didn't really have any of the other managers in place or in mind at that time. So we interviewed 3 to 5 organizations, and we really liked how your organization presented, the things that you talked about. I think you presented to us at that initial meeting like the E+R=O. Yep. And it's something that I had heard before, but I hadn't really like dived into. And that was one of the things that I think really attracted us to you at first, was like we needed to figure that out, because that was something that we definitely had. A lot of emotions were running high in the organization at that time, and we needed to learn how to manage those. So
yeah, exactly. And so we've been together now. You guys have been a client of ours for what, 3-4 years, something like that?
Yes, I think so. Yep.
Yeah. And now there's an entire executive team that's reporting to the president, who's the owner. He's the founder of the business. Yeah, very unique niche. You want to share just a little bit about charter schools and what your niche is for anyone that might be watching?
Yeah, so we sponsor charter schools across the state of Ohio. We currently sponsor about 62. When I started there, like I said, a little over 11 years ago, we had 40. So we've grown about 22 schools over the past 11 years, which is good in the current market for sure. And we also provide some services to charter schools as well. So we have different departments, and we have a compliance department that will provide some compliance guidance to the schools. We have a school improvement department that will provide school improvement information to the schools, help them achieve their goals academically. We have the legal department, which I currently head up, and we do the contracts with the schools and do all the new school applications, review those as they come in. And then we have a fiscal department that reviews all the fiscal information that's submitted by the schools.
Yeah, so it's very technical in terms of everything you have to do, and the compliance and the legalities and dealing with the state and politicians and things like that. Yeah,
right,
exactly. So Tammie, how has the executive coaching program that you've been going through with us, how has that benefited you personally as a leader, as a manager?
Sure. It's helped me a lot manage my people, and then also kind of manage the president, right? You have to lead up and lead down. So it's helped in both those ways. I think, like I said, when we first hired Action Coach, we had a lot of emotions kind of running high. I think the president at that time knew that it was overwhelming to manage 20 people, but he wasn't really sure how to navigate letting go of some of that. And so in that process, my emotions were kind of running high with that. And so Annette and Action Coach have really helped me kind of learn to manage my emotions and talk more with people. I'm a very direct person, so you're probably not going to wonder what I'm
high
thinking.
D from a disc perspective, yeah.
Right. I'm a super high D when I'm in the work environment, and then I'm a high I when I'm in social, so I can socially interact, but when in the work, I'm very high D, very like, let's get this done, and I'm going to tell you what I think. And that's not, some people don't take that very well sometimes, which is understandable. But so I just needed to learn how to manage my own emotions and deal with people differently, right? I need to learn to come, at the C's a little bit different, right? They're a lot compliance. They're a lot, rule followers. So I need to learn how to deal with all types of people, and action coaches really help me do that.
That's awesome. And it's not the easiest thing to go through some of the growth you've had to go through, obviously, because, part of our job is to hold up the mirror and things like that and shine a light on some areas. So how has that part of it been in terms of embracing that personal growth and development?
Yeah, that's hard, right? I mean, sometimes it's not easy to say, oh yeah, I didn't handle that correctly, or I need to go back and, apologize to that person, and so maybe I was doing a lot of that more before I met Action Coach. It was more of going back and apologizing. And now with Action Coach, they've taught me how to deal with it up front, right? So I can talk to Annette and say, hey, I have this situation. Can you help? How should I approach it? And she'll give me some options, some ideas, and then I can approach it in a better way to begin with. And I still don't always get the outcome that I want, right? You're not always going to get the outcome that you want. But at least I'm walking away feeling better about it. The other person's walking away feeling better about it. And sometimes we can come to a better agreement, right? We can come to a center ground where we both agree on something instead of just both walking away angry.
Yeah, exactly. And how has the coaching program, from your perspective, benefited the company overall?
Yeah, so definitely when we first met you guys, we really needed to get that hierarchy in place, right? It's not feasible for one person to manage 20 people. It's just not. And we do have different departments that have different responsibilities that really needed a lot more oversight. So Action Coach really helped us institute that hierarchy. They worked with the owner of the company to help him get comfortable doing that. And now we have 4 managers that manage the departments, and has really helped us get that in place. The managers really work well together. So they've helped us work together, and then they've helped us work with the president in presenting things to him and kind of getting some business decisions made. I would say more quickly, for sure. We're definitely getting decisions made better and more quickly.
That's awesome. And the president, who was originally, because he founded it and he's very good at it, and he's got some I mean, he's a brilliant guy, but he had some reservations about letting go of some of that and delegating leadership and management to some, to other people. And how has his confidence grown in the leadership team and like your personal ability to just manage things and take it off of his plate so he can focus on where he's most gifted, and similarly with the rest of the management team?
Sure, that has gotten a lot better. He is definitely more willing to give things off of his plate to us, allow us to make decisions sometimes. And at this point, he's even talking about retirement and passing, off the company maybe to 1 or 2 of us if we're interested in taking that on. So that's a big step for him. I mean, he's talked about retirement for years, right? I've heard that, oh, someday I'm going to retire. I think everybody says that.
Yep.
But now I feel like he's actually looking at putting a plan into place and trusting some of us, with a lot more responsibility than he ever thought before.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And would you have thought that would have been a reasonable outcome in a couple of years of working with us when you originally started?
No. No, right? I wasn't, I could not see that vision at the end for sure. So when we very first started with you. So now I can definitely see that and how you guys have really helped us get to that place. And I can actually see that playing out, over the next 3 to 5 years.
Awesome. So a great succession plan in place, and he can retire comfortable and confident that things will be handled just fine, when he takes that next leap eventually.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So how has your thinking changed in terms of before you were, you're still our general counsel, but overseeing the legal side of things? How has your thinking changed in terms of managing the legal side of the business versus now thinking more like an owner and a true executive of the business?
Yeah. That's a great question too, right? I think lawyers have a certain thought pattern, right? We think a certain way. We're taught in law school to think a certain way. And so action coaches really help me come out of the box on that. Because it's when you're thinking like an owner, you need to think about the legalities of things, but then you also kind of need to think about the workarounds from the legalities, right? I mean, there's always going to be this certain law or rule is in place, but what can we do that helps our business become more successful within the bounds of this law? So I think before I was just in the mode of, this is the law, this is what it is. I would give that to the president and say, kind of, you figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I gave you the law, you figure out what to do with it. And action coaches really helped me start thinking about what suggestions should I give him to work through that law. I know that he wants to achieve this goal, or the company needs to achieve this goal. So let me look at this from that perspective instead of just, this is what the law is and there's nothing we can do.
Right. That's pretty cool. And that probably gives him a lot more confidence too, seeing you and the rest of the executive team
Sure.
thinking more like he does.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And he said that, like, he does have, he has more confidence in us making some decisions.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're right in the middle of COVID still. You guys are still working from home instead of the office.
Right.
And how has the coaching benefited you and your teams and being able to lead virtually and remotely through a very stressful time in our country right now?
Sure. So the coaching is still there, right? It doesn't go away just because of COVID. So we're still communicating with Annette a lot. And we're still, able to ask our questions, even if it is over Zoom. So that's really helped us. I know it's given, the coaching through this time has kind of given my boss just the confidence in allowing us to work from home. I think before he was a little hesitant and would people really be working? But we've been at home since March now, and this is September. So we've been at home for a while, and it's still working, and we're still connecting with our employees, right? I mean, the coaching has given us ways to connect with your employees virtually, like we're doing Zooms with them, at least once a week. We're communicating with them daily. So it's just helped us kind of adjust into that more virtual world of communication.
Fantastic. And you mentioned emotions and some of that kind of stuff earlier. How do you see the employees that you guys are leading, that you and the other executive team members are leading? How do you see their engagement and their commitment to the company? Has that shifted at all through the new levels of leadership that you guys are bringing to the party?
Sure. I think, it was difficult at first, right? You've had a lot of people that have been there a long time and had only been managed by the president, right? And so whenever you bring somebody in at kind of that middle level and now they have to answer to somebody else, there's always an adjustment period. I think they have all made that adjustment well. They have all really kind of bought into the management team and that middle level there, and have learned to trust us as managers. And I really think that's kind of a product of our coaching though, right? Because the way we communicate with them, it's really just helped a lot so that we could kind of bring them along and up to speed with what the company was doing and the changes that we made that needed made. And now I think they're all starting to buy in. We instituted company culture points. That's a big deal. And so we have those and we talk about those in all of our meetings. So that way everybody understands the culture and how they should be acting.
Yeah, and that's a big deal because a lot of companies don't have that kind of stuff, and you guys have done such a great job with that. It's pretty cool to see all the results coming from that.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so Tammie, what if you were going to give advice to somebody who is an executive or has a potential to be an executive, like you weren't quote unquote an executive prior, but you were ready for that next level, and you engage with us to take on that growth. How would you advise somebody who's got some leadership potential and executive potential, who is considering engaging with our firm to help them with that?
I would definitely suggest it, right? I mean, I think everybody in their mind thinks they're ready for management or ready to be on an executive team. And there's probably so many things that you're not thinking about, right? That you really need some help with, you really need some coaching with. And so there were things that were brought to my attention that I never would have thought, during this process. I was like, oh yeah, that does need to change, or, oh, I thought I could handle that. Oh, nope, I really needed help handling that. So I really think having somebody in your corner to help you and advise you, somebody that you can ask questions of, and not necessarily your boss, right? I mean, there's some questions that you can't really go to your boss with. You need an outside party, kind of like an outside observer that doesn't really have a stake in the game to say, hey, this is how, you need to handle this, from this perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And what advice would you give an owner who's looking to develop his or her leadership team and culture in their business? What advice would you give them if they were considering utilizing Action Coach?
Sure, kind of the same. Like I would definitely suggest using a coach to do that for both your managers and yourself, because you're building levels of hierarchy and you're moving people up, and you really want to see them excel. And I mean, they need to. There's a lot of inner reflection with that, and you need somebody again from the outside to really help you with that inner reflection. It's not something, I don't think, that you can do by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I have 4 coaches myself because of that very reason, all coaching me on different areas. And
Sure.
yep, exactly. And how would you describe Annette in terms of, she's the coach, from our firm that's working with you and your team. How would you describe her as a coach, as a person? What words would you put around it?
Oh gosh, I love Annette. She's so helpful. Um, she asks a lot of questions, which at first you might like, oh, why are you asking me that question? But she's just trying to get you to think about how to respond and think about the answers. And that's great. I love that she asks me questions and helps me work through the problems. She's very personable, very easy to work with. You can be honest with her. I enjoy that, and she'll be honest, right back with me. But again, that's kind of my personality. I don't mind that. I like to be honest with
Mhm.
you, and I want you to be honest with me. So she'll be honest with me and say, hey, you really shouldn't have said that. Here's some suggestions on maybe what you could have said, or you shouldn't have handled it that way. Maybe you should have done it this way.
Yep.
And I appreciate that, because I want to grow and learn, and I want somebody that will be open with me about that. And she's very open, very easy to work with.
Fantastic. And any other comments, anything else you'd like to share about the experience or anything like that?
I don't think so. I mean, I've been very happy with it. It's definitely helped my personal growth and the company growth, and so we've been very excited to work with Action Coach these past years.
Fantastic. Tammie, thank you so much for taking the time with us, and enjoy the balance of your day
Sure.
and this
Thanks.
weekend coming up.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.